Hey, good morning. This is Kirk Adair. This is my lesson plan presentation here for my class at UDC. And my lesson plan is on introduction to sediments. As you see here, the PowerPoint, we have some gravity coursers that are in Greenland. And what this is a pieces of soil that was dug up that shows the different levels of sediment as the deeper it goes. And this is the beginning of my presentation. This lesson was designed for environmental science class, grades 8 through 12, and is the first lesson in the series of lessons on sediments and the cause of sediment erosion. The coloring activity is most useful for students already to have knowledge of the plate tectonics. So as you see here, the coursers are different colors, and as the deeper it goes, the color changes the layering of the sediments. Why is this important? In an environmental science class, students are too often excited about the biology aspect of the course, but it's just important to understand the environment which animals live. Sediment plays an important role in this, and additionally are extremely useful to humans, both scientific perspective and economic perspectives. So this sediment can be used for paleoclimate and relative dating, and economically, sediments are important because of the source of energy found within them, hydrocarbons. In this lesson, students will learn that what sediments are, how they're formed, and through the activity, they'll be able to relate sediments, location, and plate tectonics. We will use the 5E type of teaching here. We will engage the student, explore. I will engage the students, and explore with the students, explain, evaluate, and extend. And we use a technique that I will do it, and we do it together, and the students will do it alone. So as I scroll down here, what are sediments? Okay, sediments are particles of organisms or inorganic matter that accumulate in loose, unconsolidated form. Sedimentary rocks are formed when the originally loose sediments are consolidated. I handed out a vocabulary sheet, which we will fill out as we go through the presentations. This is the first. This is the first word on the vocabulary sheet right here. Sediments. We'll fill this out as we go through, and we'll get our vocabulary list up to date. So that's what sediments are. We'll talk about sediment thickness in the world's ocean. And as you can see here in this PowerPoint slide, that the red locations are where the sediments are the thickest, and the dark blue is where the sediments are not so thick. So around the coastline, you see that's the buildup of sediments. And we'll look at how the sediments, when they build up around the coastline, what happens to the animals and the ocean, what happens to the fish and the ocean fish that lives in the water, what happens to that when the sediment builds up around the coastline right here. And we can classify sediments by location. In this slide, we can see that these rivers that exit out into the little bay here, this right here, you can see the spray of the debris, the dirt of the sediments that are coming from the ocean into the water, and that's how the sediments build up right there. And we have a sedimentation lab we're going to do, and also we're going to classify the sediments by source, which is another sheet. All this is in the handout that I gave you guys earlier. So it can be classified by location, which you see right here. And we also can classify sediments by the size. You see the real big ones are the boulders. Then the next is cobbles, pebbles, sand, silt, and clay. That's the second way to classify the sediments that go into the water. Then the third way to classify them is by the source. And this one right here, we're going to see that these slides are four main sediment sources. The first one is image from the Hubble spacecraft up there. It's a cosmogenesis, where you classify that one. The next one, you can see the water way through the rock right there. That's second image is a river cut erosion. That's Terra Genius. The third is Magnesius nodulus. That's a hydrogenous. The sediment right here from the magnification. And the fourth is Formia feria, biogenesis, another high magnification source of sediments. And then this side is important because it tells the various sources. And back here, back to this slide. This slide is important because it classifies sediments by classification. And go back a little bit more. This is important because it classifies the sediments by location. And it shows that the nearby shore deposits of sediments and provide a visual confirmation of why we see thick sediments near coasts, especially river outflows, like I said earlier. Okay. So to conclude on my little short presentation here, is what we have learned today is we have learned about sediments, the distribution in the ocean, the grain size and energy, and the source type. And the purpose of this slide is to highlight the important points from the lecture. And the key points to take note of is that location, schematics, sediments are found in various thicknesses in the ocean floor, and the thickness is related to the margin type, tectonic features, and the coastal features. Thick sediments are found at passive margins and at major river deltas. Thin are found in the middle of the ocean and subduction low zones. We classify sediments by location, neritic and pelagic. Again, the grain size, systematic. Sediments size can tell a lot about how it was transported and how much energy is there. Was in the environment. High energy environments can transport larger sediments. Further sediments have been transported. The smaller, more round will become. We classify sediments by the size: boulders, cobbles, pebbles, salt, silt, and clay. And we can classify sediments by the source. We reviewed the four types: terragenous, biogeneous, cosmogeneous, hydrogenous, and those are the types by source. Having an understanding of sediments and where they are found now will be important for understanding different marine environments later on. So this is the first lesson on the vocabulary. We talked about this the location, the size, and the grain, but we're going to focus on what happens to the animal life around these sources of sediments, and we're going to look at what happens to the blue crab in the Chesapeake Bay. What happens to their where they live at? Do they die? Do they thrive? Does the sediments coming into their environment, does it destroy where they live? And that will be followed up on the next lesson. That being said, I'll end my presentation now. Thank you.